Jai Hind and welcome to Dev Talks. This is Aadi. Sri Lanka has been a item of news for the past some time, and we've been wondering what is happened in that country. A lot many people would have had this little thought in their mind: what went wrong? Is it just China, or there are a lot many more things that have taken place to bring it? As you know, there was a series called Seconds to Disaster. I have with me Commander Sandeep Dhawan, who's going to take us through those stories, those little seconds before it reached to the point of disaster that we see in front of us today. Thank you, sir, for joining me to discuss the story of Sri Lanka and put some more context into what is the base of this entire chaos.
Hello, Adi. It is always a pleasure to connect with you. And at the outset, I will start this session with paying homage to two of our soldiers who lost life in Congo today. And they were our peacekeeping force there, and our heart goes with their family. Okay, after that, let us start with a little bit of history of Sri Lanka. And we go into how the present setup and how the last 75 years of Sri Lankan journey has been. Who are the people who were ruling that country and why they were ruling that country? Okay, while India moved on, we are very fortunate that we moved on from a lot of negative legacies of the British Raj. Somehow Sri Lanka got stuck in that whirlpool of British Raj, and it did not really come out, whereas it had better opportunity to survive and perform better than most of the country in the region. So now if I go back to, let's say, we take the case of Rajapaksas. Who are Rajapaksas? Why they are in power? Their history goes back to early 20th century when Britishers were still there and they were ruling the country. The present or the just gone by president and prime minister, their grandfather Don David Rajapaksa. He was the one who was in a city called or a location called Humbantotta, which is very famous for not so many good things. So these were the this grandfather of theirs was the village head, okay, and later on he became the district secretary. He's like a civil servant for Britishers, okay. So now a lot of Lankans they don't agree to this. They put them in very great light that they were opposing Britishers. But the fact is that these people were actually with Britishers. Okay, that's how they became landlords, and the grandfather became the district secretary, and district secretary had lot of powers. He was supreme there in the whole region. Now Rajapaksa is a title which is given to people who are who are doing good job for Britishers. It's like Diwan Sahib or Rai Sahib, okay, or Diwan Bahadur or Sardar Bahadur, okay, or Rao Bahadur. These are various titles given in India also to people who were on the Britishers' side, and they were towing their line and subjugating their own people. Somehow, luckily, India got rid of these Diwan Sahibs and Rai Sahibs, but country like Sri Lanka got stuck with them. Country like Pakistan got stuck with them. The Chaudhrys continued to rule Pakistan, okay, even after independence. Now, it is very funny, but I would like to iterate this, and it is not with any kind of prejudice against any religion or something. But actually, the Rajapaksa clan was actually from, they were from Singla kings. Okay, the Ruhunu kingdom, they belonged to that kingdom. Somewhere during the course of the history, they converted to Christianity. Okay, maybe during the Portuguese time or Dutch period, or maybe British period. It's not very clear. But during the journey, somewhere they converted to Christianity because they were the ruling class and they wanted to maintain that class. If they had not converted to Christianity, they wouldn't have been ruling. And if you see 1948, when Sri Lanka became independent, the power was given to four big names of Sri Lanka. Okay, like Bhandar Naikes or Jayavardhanes, all were practicing Christianity with smart mix of Buddhism.
Hmm.
So it is very sorry thing, but these are the people who continue. They thought the country is like their property, and it is again the foolhardy of the people that they keep bringing them again and again and again, same people to power, and that is the end result is this, that these people think that they're all powerful.
It's quite an amazing story, sir, that you bring across, because as you mentioned, religion played a part in it with regards to anything, and that's not derogatory. It's just the times that were there at that time. So I
Yep.
guess it's Behti Ganga. So that's what happened in that area. So I there's no derogation taken. But one thing that I like to say is, post independence, how do you think these guys actually came up the ladder? They clung on to power, and it was the terms of the Bandar Naike still quite a long time, and then suddenly the Rajapaksas kind of came up, even in spite of having a fall. So I'd like you to kind
Yeah.
of tell us that
So yeah.
story,
So
sir.
I just again continue with their family saga and bring out that these were three brothers who were son of the David Rajapaksa, Don David Rajapaksa. They were Don Coronelis, Don Matthew, and Don Elvis. Now, in the present scenario, Don Matthew's son, Lakshman Rajapaksa, he had some relevance and he continued in the politics for quite some time. But other than that, only Don Elvis and his sons remained relevant in power. In fact, Don Elvin, he he was he kept winning elections initially, and when he passed over after he passed out, he wanted to hand over the mantle to his son. So now he had four sons, okay, Chamal, Mahinda, Gotabaya, and Besil. Now Chamal, when the father was Alvin was passing away, he had joined the police force. Okay, so when the Bandar Naike, she was a leader. She wanted to offer Chamal some post in the Humbantotta district. He said, "I am busy with my service. Why don't you look into my brother Mahinda, and he's capable guy." Mahinda was very young boy, but keeping the family legacy, Bandar Naike, she handed over the district post of Hambantota to Mahinda.
Hmm.
Now, Mahinda was very lucky or maybe very capable that he became the youngest member of parliament at the age of 24 in 1970. Okay. And thereafter, he never looked back. Okay. He held various posts from 1994 to 2001. He kept becoming ministers and kept going on under the tutelage of Bandar Naike. And when Bandar Naike was sort of retiring, she handed over she said that, okay, this person Mahinda, he will become he's my person for the future. That's how in 2005, Mahinda became the president for the first time, and he continued for two terms till 2015.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you remember and we go back, 2009 is the time when LTT was eliminated, and Mahinda had a huge hand in that. Okay. Now, Mahinda's brother, younger brother, who was the past, just now who left and ran away to Singapore, the president, what is his name?
Gotabaya, sir.
Gotabaya, yeah. So Gotabaya was in army that time. He served in army from 1971 to 1991 for 20 years or so. And he left army and he joined his brother back. And the third brother, Basil, was there, who was the mastermind behind every strategy. So Mahinda was the face. He was holding the clan together. The Rajapaksa dynasty limited, and the brain behind was always the Basil. Now they got together with the now, later on, Honorary Field Marshal Sarath Fonseca, who was Army Chief that time in 2000s, and they got after the LTT. They did all kind of atrocities, and almost towards the end, 40,000 civilians were massacred, and that's how the Mahinda came up on top. And it is sad that the local populace, they started hailing Mahinda as Emperor Dutugemu. Okay, Dutugemu Nu, rather. And that is a legendary king who had defeated Tamil kingdom 2000 years ago. So you can see the kind of divide which was there among these societies, that they were treating each other as from part of different country. Okay, and when Mahinda finished off LTT in 2009, they were hailing him like father of the nation, and it's in fact it's very sorry thing that Mahinda and his whole family, they had the mandate. They could have done reforms. They could have brought up the country. Nobody was opposing them. He was, as I said, he was the king.
Yeah, all powerful.
But yeah, all powerful king, and his greed, his family's greed, overpowered him, and not to carry out reform, rather indulge in corruption. And now we see where the country is today.
Sad story of affairs, and as a matter of fact, somebody who was that popular with pretty much the 80% of the country behind him. It's a sad story. But sir, India, who was the neighbor, of course, a very large neighbor. We had an issue with the IPKF as well. But before that as well, would you feel and agree the fact that India never really paid attention to this, country at the southern tip of India, and what was the relations supposed to be, and where did it land up to be in the actual this thing, sir?
Yeah, see, if you recollect, India, rather Indira Gandhi, gifted Kachativu Island to Sri Lanka during 1974. A very, very strategically located island, which is rich in fisheries.
Yeah.
And over a cup of tea, she handed over that to Sri Lankan Prime Minister, who was visiting New Delhi, as if it was her own personal property, but it was not. She should have gone to the parliament, nothing was done. Anyways, now fast forward, we come to 1983 or so, when things were going out of hand in Sri Lanka. Okay, LTTE was coming up, and the Tamil alums they were fed up. They were treated like secondary citizens, and they wanted their own country. Now, using research and analysis wing of India, uh, she made a good move. Indira Gandhi, the prime minister at that time, she made a good move. She got in touch with the LTT people. She, in fact, we were dictating terms, and they were listening to us. But somehow, and the Sri Lanka was very weak. The army was demoralized. She did not take that opportunity once again to resolve the issue. She allowed the things to take their own course, and in the process she was assassinated soon thereafter. Maybe things could have been different, and her son took over, and he did another blunder by sending IPKF to Sri Lanka. So can you imagine, within 5 years of span, uh, we alienated first Tamilians, then Sinhalese, and then the whole nation. Okay, so winning back those people was almost impossible, even for the political class, for them also to say that okay, we are with India, we want to have better relationship with India, we are going with them. It became almost a political suicide kind of thing, and they just could not take any step in that direction. And moment China saw this opportunity, China started tracking the whole situation in 2005. They moved in a big way in 2009, and thereafter they never looked back. Now, as we discussed, the Rajapaksas were open to bribery. They were winning elections uh, by donations from Chinese entities. Chinese entities had already moved in. Their companies were actually paying off all the revenue to Rajapaksas to win elections. The saris and the gold and all the gifts were being sponsored by China. So that was a state of affairs during the Rajapaksa's period, and when the India was carrying out blunders. We continued, even after withdrawing IPKF, India continued to support Sri Lanka in carrying out operations against LTT. Okay, despite pulling out LTT in 19. So that was a very sad state of affair, and so the whole nation got against actually India, and we just never got back that foothold we had there, and it kept slipping slowly and slowly without any uh, overtly effort from India's side or India's political class. That was really amazing, that how we kept undoing all the good we had done in that country over a period of time.
Indeed, sir. So then you mentioned China, and I'd like to ask you to take this particular thing forward, which with a little bit of a twist. But what did China really achieve in Sri Lanka? So, of course, strategically, a lot many would talk about humbantotta and so on and so forth. What else did they achieve except for undisclosed debt? And I mean, one of the biggest perplexing factors is that the Chinese have not been able to probably follow through with their game during this time. So, what do you think has also been the fallout for China, sir?
Yeah, so now it is interesting that it is not that India was not playing behind the scenes. India was continuously playing behind the scenes, but what I said is overtly we were not visible there doing something good for the country. Okay, so the populace was not understanding what is happening. However, India was continuously making inroads. That's how when Mahinda Rajapaksa he lost elections in 2015, he blamed straight away Indian agencies for the loss. Okay, now as far as China is concerned, China had every kind of department under their control in Sri Lanka. Okay, can you imagine that Rajapaksas, the four brothers and their clan, at one given time, 40 of the family members were ministers or holding some important post in the country. Okay, and they were holding 70% of the budgetary allocation. Okay, of the country.
Wow.
So all the contracts, even if it is Sri Lanka has not done any investment, all the contracts were going to Sri Lankan companies. Sri Lankan companies were working there. Sri Lanka's export to China was declining, but import was coming up. Sri Lanka, they never allowed Sri Lankan industry to come up. In fact, they never allowed any reform to come up. Okay, so because of that, what happened, as we discussed in the beginning, that Sri Lanka had a very rudimentary kind of system where the British era's procedures, methods, and even the machinery were being used to exist in the era when the countries like China, who were vultures, who were roaming around. So their whole industry was finished off. The only semblance of any industry was the tourism, which cannot be finished off. Okay, and even the garment industry, which more than 50% of Sri Lanka's exports depend on garment industry, that was being affected by China making inroads into cotton industry. The rubber is second Sri Lankan export. China was getting into that. Then the tea and coffee and minerals, you name it, and China was sabotaging that in Sri Lanka. Okay, it is unfortunate for Sri Lanka, that the 2018 bombings took place, which seriously affected the Easter bombing.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, that seriously affected their tourism. Western countries, they straight away declared that it is unsafe to be in Sri Lanka, and Westerners just vacated that in the country. Then came 2019 moment, little bit of pickup happened in the tourism industry, and Corona came. Corona was receding, then the Ukraine and Russia war came. And mind you, Russians and Ukrainians make 30% of Sri Lanka's tourism.
Yeah.
Indians make 20% of Sri Lanka's tourism. Okay, so that's 50% of tourism gone straight away. So all these things were really affecting Sri Lanka, and on the surface, if you see, you'll say, what, China has given only some 10%, 11% of Sri Lanka's loan. So why are you blaming that innocent country? But they were making their institutions, their industry hollow. They were taking away. It is not like that Sri Lanka is making humbantotta port. So all the engineers, all the companies are from Sri Lanka. No, all the engineers, all the companies are from China. Only the class 4 workers were from Sri Lanka. Same thing goes for all the either coal mine project or road projects or port projects, you name it. And the recent the blunders are still the biggest blunder is still going to be exposed in few years, not now. That is Colombo port city.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is a $14 billion project. They could not handle $1 billion humbantotta. You think they will handle a $14 billion port city? Now that port city, they are trying to challenge Singapore and the Gulf countries. Do you think that they have that kind of depth? They have any chance to stand there? I don't think so. They are not able to sustain it. They've already handed over 41% of the project on 99 years lease to the company which is constructing that port city.
Mm.
Okay, so they are in very bad shape, and China just cannot wash off its hands. It just cannot wash off its hands. They have washed off their hands.
Mm.
Just like they have washed off their hands, let me tell you, they have washed off their hands in Pakistan. Just 2 days back, they announced, Pakistan and China, that we are looking for a third party to become partner in CPEC. Okay. In this case, they have quietly handed over the mantle to India and gone away. Now, India is the biggest benefactor of Sri Lanka. I hope Sri Lankan people, if they're listening to this, they understand this and move forward in the relationship.
A big point, sir. As a matter of fact, you've kind of hinted to what I wanted to ask after this, is that there has been obviously a lot of hostility between India and Sri Lanka, not from Indian side, of course, because yes, the mistake that was made was the military operation called IPKF, which produced a lot of differences between both the countries. Uh, I remember a couple of years ago, I think there was an Indian origin ambassador who used to be sitting in Sri Lanka, I think. And the kind of write ups that one used to read about his Indian connections was really telling in terms of what the game is. Which brings me to my question, sir. Do you think the Sri Lankans as a society, as a community, would have learned a particular lesson with regards, one, the whole history that you've told us, and of course about China? And do you think our actions that we've taken in the past some time would help that image going forward, sir?
Yeah, so I have been to Sri Lanka many times, and there are awesome people there. Okay, very disciplined, very humble people. And in fact, I have been to, you'll be surprised, next to the Humbantotta port, there's a Humbantotta airport.
Mm.
Okay, this is called Rajapaksa Airport. That is the emptiest airport in the world. Okay, they are not able to generate the kind of revenues just to cover their electricity bill. Then they have made, next to that, they have made big convention centers and recreation places which are empty like a desert. Okay, so Sri Lanka's import is 5.5 billion, which is the highest ever, and the exports are 2.4 billion, which are the lowest ever in last financial quarter financially. So that is the state. So now with that, I come back to the question that the Sri Lankan population is understanding. Okay, in my recent visits also, we found them to be very positive towards Indians. In fact, when I went to Maldives recently and interacted with people, they are also realizing, okay, and they are also equally happy to have Indians there, and very, very humble. So now India has to be visible there. Our problem is that uh, like we have done $3.8 billion credit line, come aid, come help to Sri Lanka. If China had done that, okay, they would have gone on, blitzkrieg of propaganda.
Yeah.
But I see very few places in Sri Lankan media where it is mentioned that India is doing this. India, along with Western countries, has created a consortium where we are monitoring how the aid is being distributed, and we are monitoring that it is reaching the last person without any fail and without any corruption. Okay. Can you imagine China's total contribution compared to India's 3.8 billion is just 67 millions? It's a joke. Yet they think we have given in just first 4 months itself. We have given 377 millions, and their contribution, total contribution, is just 67 million. So this has to go into among the public in the public forums. It has to go down to the grassroots level. It has to go down to the last man standing there in Sri Lanka. Then they have to then they will realize we are sending messages on social media. Our prime minister has reached out to their president elect Vikram Singhe. Our ambassador has gone and met their latest elected prime minister. But we are the representatives in Sri Lanka, our embassy in Sri Lanka, they all have to go on a blitzkrieg there where they inform people that what India is doing. We are supplying them from fertilizer to food grain to medicine to just about everything possible. Okay, this has to go down to the last person. If it doesn't go, then we are not doing. Then we have to reach out to Tamilians in Sri Lanka. Okay, it is unfortunate. I don't know why India has this rule that no Tamilian will ever become a high commissioner in Sri Lanka. Okay, it is an unwritten law, but it never happens. So now the Tamilians, they find difficult to interact with the High Commission there and High Commissioner and the Indian representative in Sri Lanka. Maybe India was thinking that this is to have some kind of goodwill with the Singhali population. Then it does not matter to them. If it had mattered to them, they would have been with India. Okay, so now the perception is changing in last couple of years, especially after Dr. Jaishankar has come, and we have been on our offensive, but it has to be the message has to be sent in subtle way. It has to be clear and cut. If required, India should give inserts in their newspapers and magazines and on TV that what India is doing. It should be visible there. It should be India should be vocal there. Then only we will see positive results.
Absolutely, no question in that, sir. And I think that's one of the drawbacks India has, that we certainly lack in strategic communication. I hope somebody kind of works on it. So you've actually brought out a very important point, as I was saying, about communication. What else do you think, and this would be pretty much the final question that I have for you, what else do you think India should do, sir? One of the things that is being called out every time by India as a piece of propaganda is about the news that keeps floating about forces, and I don't see any evidence to support the fact that India even thinks about that. What do we do to support this country, because there is complete chaos there right now?
Yeah, so it's a very pertinent question because that is how we will get closer to the masses. And see, the Sri Lanka needs about $25 billion in next 3 to 5 years time to bring up their country. Okay, so the first step in that direction is that India should get going with the IMF, World Bank, and the Western powers, and convince them that this revenue is required, this money is required for bringing up this country. We should also help them in reforming their industry. Okay, that is one very important part because in last 15-20 years, China has decimated their industry. And I'm telling you, even if we give them 25 billion and just move out and ask them to do on their own, they will again falter. Worst thing is the Gotabaya, President Gotabaya, ex-president, will run away to Sri Lanka. He's again coming back. So we have to inform the populace there, the citizens of Sri Lanka, that if you keep making same mistake again and again and expect different result, then that's the definition of schizophrenia or idiocy, because that will not happen. You keep doing repeating same thing and you'll get same results. So you have to do something different. Therefore, uh, from reliable sources, I've been told that Rajapaksas are not very keen to do any major thing in the 2025 elections. They are just going to sit tight and let Vikramasinghe and his team deal with this financial crisis, and then they will come up in 2030 in a big way. Okay. Now, Mahinda Rajapaksa, he's in bad health. He's not going to be there in 2030. Even if he's there surviving, he will. So now his son, okay, uh, his son is going to be taking the mantle forward, and maybe Basil will be the brain behind. So we have to, the whatever ways and means India has to use, whether it is our agencies or research analysis wing or whatever means we have to use, we have to see that these people do not come back to power again. Obviously, it is a democratic setup, and they are free to come back. But so we are not interfering in their elections as such, but the message has to go to the public as such, that this is the thing. These people have to be exposed so that they do not return back.
Mm.
Now, along with that, India has to up the ante and increase the investment. We were very, very easygoing in as far as Sri Lanka is concerned. Okay. Uh, Till Mahinda was there, yes, there is no doubt. He was expecting a lot of bribe and a lot of assistance, personal assistance for his family. India was not in favor of that, so we just could not. But now, person who has come in limelight is President Vikramasinghe, and he is pro West, pro India. So India has to go wholehearted with him, give him all the support so that he succeeds. Okay, we have to also see that how we get the all the projects which have gone to China out of their clutches.
Mm.
Okay, that is very important because if you remember, Colombo Port Eastern, the terminal that was being developed by India and Japan. Okay, the last moment they wriggled out and it went to China. Somehow, when in December, the Basil, the finance minister Basil was visiting India looking for assistance. I'm not sure, but I think that is the time he was pressurized to look into the matter. Else, he will not get India's financial support. That is how the Western container terminal in Colombo came to Indian company.
Yeah.
So these are things. Now, India is doing a lot of things, especially under the present External Affairs Ministry. We have done undertaking with them a significant agreement. It is called. There are 6 points in that, but the 3 points are extremely important. That is getting the hybrid power project.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is now being developed by India, which was earlier being developed by China. I had reported about this last year, well in time, but nobody woke up. And these are very politically as well as strategically very important islands. Okay, the Delph Island, Nainatevu, and Analativu. These are small islands. They're insignificant as far as world is concerned. But as far as India and the Park Bay is concerned and presence of China is concerned, these are very important. Okay. Then the next one is creating a maritime rescue coordination center in Sri Lanka. When we do that, we are sort of getting into their air and sea domain. Okay, that means always India will have an eye in their air and sea domain. Okay, that means strategically this becomes very important, and we are safeguarding our interest. Third is we are upgrading their fisheries harbors. Okay, this once again gives us a chance that all along the Sri Lankan coast, India would be in control of their coast. They would be, if not control, at least under scrutiny. So, no untoward incident from China's side, no mischief from China's side can take place without India being aware of this. Then we are developing Trincomalee Port, we are developing power projects with them. Uh, we also need to increase the frequency of flights with them. We
Mm.
need to start the ferry service, which was a regular feature earlier but stopped for some strange reason. So these are the few measures India has taken or India should take to get back into Sri Lanka. We are a regional power. We should take initiative. We should have quarterly meetings. The Prime Minister's office must take quarterly update from the ministries handling these crucial issues and areas. Then only we will make some progress. And I'm sure the Sri Lankan citizens, they have started understanding the recent interviews and recent utterances on the street in Sri Lanka and Colombo were very, very clear indicative of that.
I mean, it's not about lot many would say that you're trying to take advantage of a bad situation. I won't look at it like that. So it's basically about playing a role that we should have played about 70 years ago, I guess.
Absolutely.
You
Absolutely.
know, it's a
So that is a very, very, very sad thing, that we allowed our whole effort to just fizzle out over a period of 20, 25 years. Just we just fizzled out, and I'm telling you, India wouldn't have been alarmed. Okay, uh, if the Chinese ambassador had not made a foolish mistake of visiting Trincomalee in December 2021. Okay,
yeah.
that is the time they really got scared that now China, initially they were in south and now they're making inroads into north. And those that is the time the alarm bells started ringing. And that visit of China, we should thank the Chinese ambassador that he made that visit.
And as a matter of
Okay,
fact,
otherwise we would
he
have
went
been
in
in
that
trouble.
traditional attire and everything like that to kind of.
Yeah, he went into attire. He went to the, uh, you know, in Sri Lanka has become a joke now. They started calling Sri Lanka as Chi Lanka. Oh, okay. Or the it was earlier, they used to take Tamil Ilam as their enemy, but now they're calling it Chilam. That means, you are calling Tamil Ilam as our enemy, but actually it is the Chilam, which is the enemy. That is, how China has been perceived in Sri Lanka. So it's a great opportunity for India to mend our ways and heal the damage we have done in many years. At the same time, we have done a lot of good, so we have to bring that up and show it to the Sri Lankan citizens.
Indeed, sir. I think you know there was a good old saying, "Karam karte chalo, phal ki chinta mat karo." I think in today's day and age, it needs to be karam karte chalo और उसका band भी बजाते चलो साथ में.
Yeah,
It's
it has to be, because otherwise, yeah, it is like a tree falls in jungle and nobody sees it, then the tree has not fallen. Okay, it is still erect. So
and
that is
yeah, we are in that country. We are going up against a narrative superpower. So at the end of it, our narrative needs to be, if not as strong, but it needs to be much more stronger than what the Chinese
yeah,
would be able to do. And there are, whatever said and done, there are uh, cultural and ethnical connections between both the countries,
absolutely,
similarity of
absolutely.
traditions, religion. There's a whole lot that goes back, and the whole
Yeah. Even the whole of our mythology, our history, everything is interwoven,
Yeah,
And even the Buddhism, what they follow there, and you just name it, the food and everything. So it always happens that neighboring countries generally they have friction points. Okay, India is no different, and even China is no different, and other countries also no different. Okay, we are not fortunate like USA, which has got Mexico to south and Canada to north, and it is free of any stress. But other countries are not that fortunate, and they always have friction. So we have to play as a big brother's role and bring up the whole region. Why we can't have a common currency like euro or something like that? The BIMSEC, why BIMSEC is just a name is continuing. SARC is obviously dead. So we have to play a bigger role than what we are playing today. We have
there
to
is,
play a bigger.
there is no question. So I think it needs to be taken up as a wake up call. So we've got Myanmar on one side, which is on fire. We've got Sri Lanka in the south, which is on fire. We've got Pakistan, which is being lit as we speak. The oil is being supplied, and so it's a challenge for India. And
And the
I'm not
north, our
even,
north, and don't forget Nepal.
yeah,
We
Nepal and
we did very badly in Nepal. Okay,
yeah,
we are very badly in Nepal. Even Bhutan is
Bhutan.
almost sitting in the lap of China. So while we did score few points here and there in Nepal and Bhutan, but most of the time we have been on the losing side. So
Absolutely,
uh,
absolutely.
we have to pull up our socks and get going with gusto. That it's not that good old world where it take 1 month to take decisions, and it has to be chop and it's not that same world.
Oh,
It is
absolutely. The
still
geopolitical scenarios are changing pretty much on a daily basis today.
every
Yeah,
day it's changing.
the trend remains the same,
So
but these variables kind of keep on moving across and presenting new and new challenges to
yeah,
the players in the game. And if India does, as you say, have ambitions of growing up and being a regional or a global power, uh, these kind of things must be handled more professionally. I think it's very, very critical. But so let me say this: you've brought out a aspect of history which is very interesting because uh, the whole discussion about Sri Lanka has not covered the colonial hangover, if I may put it that way. I'm trying to find a better word for it, but I guess
yeah, yeah.
that fits better. But
That fits very nicely.
yeah, so they've not been able to get over that colonial hangover. And one of the things that we also see is the kind of hold that the Rajapaksas have even today. Um, being as it may that they run away from the country, but one must also understand the dotted line. They were allowed to run away from the country due to a whole lot of forces being still valid towards them.
Loyal to them.
And with a standing army of about 2 lakh soldiers, that's for such a small country, it does make a huge kind of a impact right there. But your explanation of history, I think, is going to bring about a very interesting angle to the whole thing, because we'll be able to actually look at bad management along with bad traditions, and of course the fuel in the oil, which is China, which is going to tell us what is going to happen. Thank you, sir. For one, I read your article. It was, insightful, if I may. um, and it gave me a thought to kind of dwell into the history, which is important because everybody's talking about 2 3 factors that have affected Sri Lanka. One is the corruption, and second is China. Nobody's really, very few people have spoken about the legacy which comes across, and that you brought out.
Yeah,
I'd like to thank you for that, and of course
thank you so much.
hoping for a more regular interaction with you on many more subjects, sir. uh, till then,
Yeah,
Jai
thank
Hind,
you
sir.
so much. It was a pleasure. Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you. Bye bye.
Bye bye, sir.